Hello everyone and welcome to this special session. The theme for this conference and theme for today is mobile everything. And I can tell you, if you're looking at what's happening in mobile, in fact if you're looking at what's happening on the internet in general, at this stage is nearly everything when it comes to that. So very little introduction is needed. Sachin Bansal, of course, founder and CEO of Flipkart, Naveen Tewari, founder and CEO of InMobi, and Vijay Shekhar Sharma, founder and CEO of Paytm. So it doesn't get bigger than this. Please put your hands together for all of them. And I'm going to leave it reasonably free-flowing, so please feel free to dive in, ask any questions, disagree violently, throw things, do whatever you want. It's fine. But let me just start off with the basic question. Mobile everything, you know. This is obviously something which started off as a concept, became established truth, became hyped. Is it still the way you see it panning out? Mobile everything, and that's really what we should be betting on?
Yeah, I think we have been talking about this for almost a few years now, and actually a few years ago it was almost like a belief that it used to come out like a belief, not really backed by facts, but now we are seeing more and more facts to support that actually mobile is going to be everything, that mobile will disrupt everything, including how shopping happens, to how education is delivered, to payments, to transportation, and not just that. I think going forward, even healthcare, how elections happen, how people get influenced during elections. I think all of that is getting influenced by mobile. So it is all pervasive. Everything will get changed because of this.
Naveen, any skepticism at all as to what all mobile can do? It can't quite brush your teeth so far or make the
Yeah, well, I think it's having a hard time figuring out the murder mystery case, though.
But yeah, I was about to ask you, you have theory on that, please feel free.
No, I think, look, your question actually reminded me of, we probably are one of the first companies, not just in India, globally, which was mobile first. We didn't have, any presence to even begin with to do outside of mobile. And obviously, the skepticism that we faced in 2008 when we launched ourselves to 2009, where people in most parts of the world would come back and say, well, what are you even talking about? Like, this is going to be a minor or a minority of what's going to be the case going forward, to a scenario where today, just like Sachin just said, not just payments, commerce, advertising. Obviously these will be very, very largely on mobile, but a lot of social services of the country will actually be here. Whether it's education, healthcare. And you can go on and on, but I think most importantly, security. The devices and capabilities of these devices have not completely been, tapped yet. And so I think there is no skepticism per se. I think the skepticism is more around, can we actually move as fast as the world is moving, and therefore changes in the regulations, etc. Can they all come to effect in order for that to actually happen? I think that's...
Well, I'm going to come to some of the reasons why you may have skepticism, not least the fact that mobiles ideally should be used to be able to speak to somebody else. And right now with call drops, it's not quite that easy. So I find it slightly worrying that you're depending on this device to change your life. You can't actually use it to make a call. So
I think it gets down to the business models also, because the business model of dependency on the voice as a revenue is not the right one. And so therefore that business model needs to shift to say, okay, I can make revenue through other methods, and therefore subsidize higher quality networks.
Right. Vijay? How big it's going to be? You're talking about a sort of skepticism there used to be 5-6 years ago, and that's right. Look at the way things have changed. We go back further, when we, for example, first started to do content on mobile, which was 2000, people thought we were insane. They said, you're crazy, that it'll never happen. 5 years, 10 years from now, what all can you potentially be doing with your mobile phone?
I think mobile, as we know, is going to change for sure. When you're saying mobile, you're not assuming this is 12-inch screen, or yesterday iPad Pro we got to see, and then tablet or a device which is this big. The very concept of mobile, and if it is opening a form factor in your mind, that is what definitely is going to change in the next 3-4 years for sure. It's abstracted. When you say mobile, it truly is the app on the mobile, on an operating system which is in so many millions hands. So I fundamentally believe that mobile were the first consumer technology which became so mass as we see today. And going forward, the forms and factors are inevitable to change. Naveen is wearing Apple Watch, and whether it will be watch, whether it will be wearable, whether it will be surrounded by sensor or whatever, that is not the trick that I know yet. But I definitely know that it was not the form factor which is the mobile when you're saying mobile everything. It is the app on the top of it which does the magic. And that app will find its many incredible differential avatars, so to say. Right. And to quote this historical thing, I remember internally, 2011 used to be the time when we were discovering as a company what should we do on the smartphones. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and we quoted this line: if somebody is showing you next big thing, and if it is not on the mobile, somebody is not showing you the next big thing. That was 2011, so to say. And I think today we should just move this to the app, that if somebody is showing you next big thing on the mobile, and if it is not an app, he's not showing you the next big thing, for sure.
Okay, let's just dive into this debate now that you've raised it, because Sachin's familiar with this debate, right, a little bit. There's been a lot of recent talk, and Kunal in particular saying that, if the decision to go app only is one of the most customer unfriendly things that he has ever seen. Why go app only? I get how powerful apps are, but why be app only? Why not be app and web, both, or app, web, and desktop?
Yeah, I think we need to look at some data and statistics around this, right? So India's mobile traffic, overall traffic coming from mobile phones, exceeded desktop in 2012. It's not like a recent phenomena, or it's not going to happen in the future. It's already happened 3 years ago. Apart from that, the way we are seeing sales of smartphones, sales of laptops and desktops, replacement cycles, all of this, and growth of broadband, physical broadband and wireless broadband, all of those developments in India, that day is not far in the future when we will see 90% of India's internet traffic originating from smartphones. And within smartphones, 90% of internet usage will be on apps, right? So it's like a no-brainer that you need to get one thing right. And what we believe is that if you win mobile app, you win everything. If you lose mobile app, you lose everything. It doesn't matter rest of the stuff. So that's how stark the situation would be.
No, I mean, the importance of apps certainly cannot be underestimated or understated, but if you consider that a lot of the people who are now going to be getting mobile phones it's not necessarily going to be your iPhones and your Samsungs, the Samsung 6, I mean. They're going to be smaller phones, cheaper phones, may not have that much storage capacity. There may be only space to put 2 or 3 or 4 apps into it. So do you really feel that the M.dot concept, the fact that somebody will type in a particular address on the browser and go to it, are you sure that that is not going to be successful?
No, it's already happening. It's already, as I said, right, so it's already happening on mobile, while on desktop, 90% of usage used to be of the browser. Browser used to be the alpha Uber app on the desktop. It's not that, it doesn't have that status on mobile. People are already moving away from browsers. Browsers are mostly invoked through a Facebook or a Twitter when a link has to be seen or things like that. It's not really the main app that consumers are going to. That's something that we're already seeing. So I think, yes, I think that's where we are looking at data and yeah.
Vijay, your take on that before I come to Naveen?
I think somebody who said that this is consumer unfriendly should know there is far more consumer unfriendly when you're doing it on internet, because I remember there was a time when all travel agencies used to OTAs used to publish 1-800, 1-500 ABC number. So why did we miss that generation anyways? I mean, we should be super consumer friendly or business friendly to have even a toll-free number advertised that please dial this number to place an order on us. I think it is about being relevant. The puck is moving there. Microsoft earns ton of revenue on desktop. It is totally irrelevant company today. You may make money, you may be irrelevant. If you want to be the one who brings a change, you want to capture the audience where it is headed. That is where the app is.
Also, I think as we as companies have a responsibility to innovate on behalf of the consumer. The consumer is not going to innovate, or the consumer is not going to tell us what the next big innovation is will be. It is our job to actually figure that out based on consumer needs and constraints in the ecosystem. I truly believe that focus on a channel or a mode of delivering your service to consumer really leads to innovation. The way Naveen, like ruthless focus on, or relentless focus on mobile last few years have put them into this position where other companies of the similar generation can't even dream to be in that situation because of this focus that they have shown. So I think
just focus is what you're saying is
drives innovation.
Right. One of the things about apps, of course, Naveen, is, and the data is sometimes staggering. When we first started, for example, to set up the NDTV app, the data didn't seem to make any sense because you were on desktops or other form factors. One user was driving something like 9 page views in a month or 10 page views in a month. From the app, we were getting 320 page views in a month from a single user. And that sort of showed some of what was being spoken about out here. Is that still the trend you're seeing?
You know, I think it's I think we are confusing few things. I think there is no question on the importance of the application. It's completely important. But also let's realize, as you rightly said, a phone can have at max about 40 to 50 apps, of which about 25% are pre-decided. You're not deciding them. So you're left with few slots. So it's like your current TV set-top box or whatever, the cable channel, you used to have 13 channels and can you be one of them? So, and if you are one of them, then that's brilliant. Then that's brilliant. So I think the debate is at 2-3 levels, right? One, if you are one of the top apps in your category, which both of these guys are, you need to go all out and secure that location. There is no way that you cannot not secure that position because that's the way for it to be. But the current app ecosystem is pathetic. The app ecosystem is pathetic because the user experience of an app is bad. The way you go through one app and then you go from one app to the next one, it's like, who does that in the world? Like, it's so clunky. It's like 1997 of Yahoo. It's that bad. Now that has to evolve and come out with something new, which will obviously start to happen. But in the meantime, consumers are not going to stick to the large torso set of applications or the big applications that will take the early, few screens. There is evolution that is happening which will basically say, okay, what is the next set of applications that one can get to? Now to your question, the numbers are what the numbers are today. Because there is a bias of the consumers actually having only that many of apps, and so therefore there is a recursive cycle which is essentially forcing the same number of apps getting. So if you are one of the top apps today, there is a very likelihood chance that you will be very successful. So you should go all out and do what these guys are trying to do, is to say, okay, I will be the app in the system and I will drive it, and therefore when I have that real estate, I'll continue to keep it. But that's not the end of the world. There are 500,000 other applications or million apps that are out there.
Most of them will not keep on getting used, and most of them will not find a place on the phone, so therefore you should have other strategies.
No, but
if you're not Flipkart and you're not Paytm, and
then you won't have it, but the ecosystem will evolve itself, and therefore where the puck is going to be a little different than what it is right.
I think there is this ecosystem existing on internet, right? Desktop, as we call it, and the gatekeeper is Google nearly, because you go through them.
No, it's not.
Even if it is not, significant traffic goes through them, and whatever else is. There is Facebook, there is Google. Now, I have a question. Do you think it worked out on internet? Do you go through million sites in 12 months time period?
No, as an end consumer,
Yeah.
individually I do not.
So that's what the end purpose of technology
my
is.
set of sites, the 15-25% of them would be common to all of you, but the 75% would be not common to you.
And then you will discover those apps?
And I will discover those apps, but the discovery of those apps and the way you discover them is very broken today.
Oh, that's Andy Rubin and Google problem. That's not our problem, right?
But Vijay, I think that the point that he's making is that if you only have limited space in your phone to keep 5-10 apps, then it's slightly, I mean, you guys may be fine because you'll be one of the 5-10 apps. What are the others?
I think this is classic that...
By the way, I love this because, you know, that's when a lot of these guys spend millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that obviously come to us and we get them those positions. But
why do you think? Why do you think yeah, it's great. Keep this debate going, guys.
I know, because I don't
I
want
think the right places to advertise.
I don't want you guys to come up with any new strategy right now.
Obviously, I mean, as an agenda driver, he has to make a couple of people fight to drive advertising spend. That's forgiven. So
I thought you'd promised on this panel you're going to be making people fight.
Well, I'm taking a
I'll have the big piece, you'll have the big fight.
I have a challenge here that I do not think the newer form factors will have a browser in their app as one of them.
I agree.
Which is incidentally not because it can't come, not because it can't be morphed, not because it can't be deployed, but because browser-based systems are broken fundamentally, and it's sort of a cycle in the world. Apps, browser. I think it's a cycle. So in the forward cycle it is broken is what I'm saying, and it'll come back is also what I'm predicting.
Can I argue with you on that for just a second or two?
Please.
It depends on how you define a browser. Yes, it's possible that you may not be opening your phone or device and typing in, www or something else. But if you're saying, hey Siri, or you're saying, okay Google,
that's what I was saying.
Browsing.
You just said it correct. An app is answering your solution, not a browser is where you typing URL where you can go anywhere. That Siri decided whose they are taking content from to answer it. That's called app. Siri is fundamentally an app which is powered by cloud capabilities behind the scene. So that is what I'm trying to put up, that look, this open ecosystem of desktop internet, and it got killed. The SEO, SEM, the affiliates, everybody killed it actually. I mean, it's a given. I don't have to say more about it.
Well, but the user experience leaves a lot to be desired. Yeah. Okay, let me start another discussion out here on the question of the language of the internet as you go forward in India. Because so far, if you look at China, most sites are in Chinese. If you look at India, most of the internet so far is English and English first. When is that going to change, Sachin? When are you going to have Hindi first or Telugu or Tamil or, local language, vernacular sites driving the internet in India?
Yeah. No, I think the challenge in India is slightly different from, actually it's very unique to India. We have large populations which don't speak English, or which don't have native English language, either speaking, reading or writing. We have majority of the people who are well off or who will have the funds to actually fund the internet through ads and other things. Will they speak English? Then we have fragmentation of languages. We don't have one common language. Hindi is the most common language, but still not, still by far, it is still not the dominant. It's still not the majority. It's still 50%. And which is very different. Actually, this kind of a situation has never happened in the world anywhere, right? Whether it's China or other geographies, right? So I think now with smartphones coming in and with keyboards on smartphones, which have solved the problem of language, where you can have multiple languages keyboards, this problem is actually going to get tackled now with more localization, more local languages coming in. So I believe in the next maybe 1 or 2 years, we'll start seeing some progress in that direction.
So at what point would a company like Flipkart, for example, say, we are Hindi first as opposed to being English first, or some other language first? That's I think the question I'm trying to get at.
I don't think we can say Hindi first or English first. Right now we are English first and English only. I think we'll probably stay English first for the next few years. Actually, it's very hard for me to say when exactly Hindi will become the first language of the internet. It's actually because if you look at younger population, which is the driver of the internet, they are learning English, even in schools. So yeah, I think primary driver of internet seems to be English, even in the near future. Yes, there will be local languages which will be significantly large.
Naveen, where's the growth taking place?
I have a different point of view on this, which is, I don't think it's going to be about, it's not going to be about the written language. It's going to be about videos, and it's going to be about audios. And so content consumption is going to move from text to essentially audio and video to a great extent. When you have audio and video, automated translation of that and putting captions, etc., would become a far, far easier way of doing those things, as against trying to essentially, get into the converting existing content the way it exists today to try and convert it into a written one. It's actually, it's very, very hard. So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. It's going to be a, I was a few days ago, I gave my phone to my son, he's 4, and said, why don't you start typing me a message? So that I thought he'll type something, he'll learn something. And 10 minutes later, I start getting messages from him, and they were not any more written messages, because earlier it was gibberish for like first 5 minutes, because he figured that there is a audio button there, started pressing the audio button, sending me audio messages only. And till date, I cannot get him to write, because he only sends me audio messages. So I think the evolution of the new generation is going to be very different, because they will be far more at ease with audio video. I can bet you this room will have a tougher time looking at audio video than the new generation would. And so therefore, I just feel that the new language of communication is going to be significantly different.
Yeah, there's a slight but around that, which is the bandwidth question, which I will come to in just a couple of minutes. But on this, on vernacular?
I think it is like a problem on like a flyover on Outer Ring Road in Delhi. When some things have been sorted.
We don't have flyovers. Don't do this to us.
Oh, is it?
It's Bangalore.
When we're in Bangalore, talking about traffic is a cruel thing to do.
You shouldn't do. You don't do
this
this
audience will not like you for talking about traffic.
Namma, hello, Bangalore, whatever. Okay, so yeah, that's a very interesting debate between Delhi, Bangalore. We know. Now, in other words, my point is that this is a problem that gets sorted once you have sorted previous problems like user base, devices, language capabilities, and so on. And it is nearly forward next. What I like about Naveen is that he's not only solved the language problem, he solved the literacy problem also. I mean, you can speak in your own dialect and you can send that. It doesn't matter.
You're sounding as if that's the only thing you like about him.
No, I mean, it's amazing. I never thought of it that the primary interface would be voice, not this. I actually fundamentally believed India won't have voice as an interface.
You know, the way Paytm should work, Vijay, pay me some money and should come to me.
I get the hint. Vijay. Okay, so the voice as an interface for India is a challenging capability. We're talking interface here. We're not talking the content. I mean, in a sense that catalog, audio, maybe the media is what you could talk. If you were to talk about that, how the print expanded and TV expanded, do you think that TV reaches a newer and different audience than a print reaches?
Well, there are different audiences, but yes, I mean, I think if you're looking at the way traffic is growing and traffic is moving, even for a television company like ours, I think by now the number of people who are accessing us online or through our apps is probably as much as are watching us on TV, between some 60 million unique visitors.
Is it more than somebody who's opening a broadsheet or print?
It's difficult, yes, so almost certainly in terms of absolute numbers, how many people will be reading the leading publications compared to the number of people who are just opening up various devices and getting content. Yes, arguably. We're doing some 60 million unique visitors a month right now on various platforms, which would be more than the average print site. So yes, I think that is the way it is moving. But just the language question on this is, for you, for example, is the key part of you have to get people all across the country to use you as a wallet.
Absolutely.
You have to talk to them therefore in their language.
So I think some apps will become language capable earlier than others. We right now are building a language app, and I think not the Hindi first or English first, the language first will be the choice, and you can scroll the choice that you have. Definitely, I mean, it is important flyover for us next stop.
Okay. You know, Naveen, let me come back to that. Sorry, you wanted to disagree with him, so you want to...
No, I disagree with flyover.
I was just disagreeing with the flyover. He again used it. It's not right.
Okay, now can I disagree with the entire question of how is all of this fantastic things that we keep hearing about, oh, there's going to be ubiquitous internet, and there's going to be mobile everywhere, and there's going to be these lovely, everyone's going to be doing voice and video. Sounds really good, may well be the future, but we've got to solve something first. If you're going to have a digital India, you've got to make sure that you have basic bandwidth. You can talk to people on mobile phones before you're going to start watching video on mobile phones. Try doing it in Bangalore or in Delhi, forget about outside.
I think the problem of the voice penetration was solved one point of time. There was a, I would say, quantum leap. And I think this data problem will be solved on 29 December this year.
It was solved in the reverse. There was a time 4 years ago you said, you used to tell people, call me on my mobile phone. Now, quite often you're saying, call me on my landline because I can't talk to you on the mobile phone.
Vikram, I believe that the answer might be coming this year's 25 December, which elusive has been for 3 years or 4 years.
Well, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Naveen?
You know, I think the problem, so there are two parts. One, the evolution is so quick that businesses cannot evolve themselves. Fundamentally, the reason why this exists today is because the business model has changed. From consumer paying for some of these services to these services should be absolutely free for consumers. Now, the only way you can make, whether it's your handset, it has to be fundamentally free for consumers. The data usage has to be fundamentally free for consumers. These things need, every content on the planet needs to be free for consumers. Now, your question essentially is then how
you say every content needs to be free for consumers.
Yeah, basically he wants Airtel 0 rating officially.
No. We'll do it through advertisements. Don't worry.
Don't worry that?
No, absolutely.
So the consumer should use...
Fundamentally, advertisements and commercial content can subsidize everything that a consumer essentially uses. As a consumer, you probably have about $100 to $150 per year, $200, $250 per year. That all can be subsidized through various different other methods.
You're saying data should be completely free.
Absolutely. In the next 5 years,
everything should be paid for by ads.
Yes. In the next 5 years.
What percentage of advertising in India right now, and I'm touching a really sore subject with you. What percentage of total advertising in India right now is actually going into digital?
Very small.
It's a small fraction.
Very small.
But two of these
a lot of that goes to Google.
Interesting thing is that two of these guys are trying to fight that very small. Maybe there is an insight we should ask right now. How is it growing that two of you are going to fight that advertising dollars in this country?
Look, I only have this fight.
No, you have a global sort of fight. Sachin should talk about it now.
Yeah, why are you into advertising?
So I think the idea of advertising becoming the primary driver to pay for data, I think it's a little far-fetched right now because the size of the market is pretty small. Overall advertising space is about $7 billion in India, and I don't think that is enough to fund the data costs of the telecoms. It has significantly changed disruptively over the next maybe 2, 3 or 4 times, which doesn't seem to be the case right now. So I think the problem is a little bit of the way our telecom regulations are structured. I think they're trying to maximize the revenue coming from spectrum, which seems like a very short-term view. I think the government should look at what is the benefit of giving spectrum for cheap and actually abundantly to the telecom players, and which leads to actually economic development, which leads to more taxes eventually, and that is much more long-term. It's just not one-time money that they will make. I think that's the view that somebody needs to take, which is a bit tougher because it will force them to think slightly longer term. But I think today abundantly available spectrum, if it is made available to telecoms, it will lead to significant economic development in the country.
I mean, the government, I think, gets it. It's just that I'm not quite sure how they're going to, what they're going to do.
Free up the spectrum. It's a spectrum free up problem. I think there are people who will be ready to pay the money if there was a spectrum. The problem in this country is the spectrum is not free. Let's forget about spectrum question. I actually was asking your advertising attention because you're taking money from Vikram, hopefully from TV to digital and digital mobile to your home. How's that? And why advertising as a revenue model?
So I think advertising itself will the time spent on mobile is growing, right? So if you look at the time spent on average smartphone user spends about 160 minutes on a smartphone, average desktop user spends about 90 minutes on desktop, and average TV user spends about 90 minutes on TV, 95 minutes. I think that's the data that everybody has, right? So and the sheer number of smartphones in the country will be so much as compared to the people who have TV is just and you multiply that by 160 and you multiply the TV users by 90 and you just get the number of minutes, and the sheer number of minutes itself will, and advertisers will have to go to where consumers are. They can't just go anywhere else. I think that's basically the logic which we believe is going to drive the mobile advertising ecosystem.
So let me throw one question to all of you. Now, when it comes to the business model that you think is going to dominate, let me know, speaking about advertising, that's going to be dominant. Is it going to be advertising or is it going to be transactions or both that are going to drive the business model? Vijay?
This is no-brainer. It has to be both. It just can't be one. The question could be that when will India tilt or equal? That is a tricky question because in US, Google's ARPU, annual ARPUs are about $178, which is way too high. And in India, I think this is not even a gross MV value of a customer spend on an average. So whether we will see advertising dollars earning enough that transaction money will be made, I think it is at least 5 years forward. And that is why this is time to build that, not play that more.
I mean, the reason I was asking that question is just obviously both are there, but today if you look at the way valuations are, for example, it seems to be very clear that the market seems to be feeling that, well, advertising is never going to be very big, transactions are going to be massive, which is why any company that's in transactions is getting many times the valuation that a content company.
Transaction is visible, you're actually making a value, and advertising is a lot future forward, while transaction valuations are also future forward value, but advertising is lot future forward at that value.
Naveen, at what point is advertising money going to be large enough that people say, well, content is also as important as transactions?
Look, in India today, that's correct. Because India's monetization, the amount of ad dollars that exist in India are obviously minuscule compared to what exists globally. But we cannot play the game with the same playbook that the rest of the world played with. We are the third, big front. It's US, China, India. We're the third big front on any play as India, which means we have seen the two plays happen. The two plays have clearly indicated what that play would look like. So therefore, if we were to fast forward and have the ability to fast forward 5 years, we would make an argument to say, look, advertising-based businesses will obviously be significantly stronger, but how do you create that market to grow? Obviously people will work on making that market grow over the next 5 years. But fundamentally, if $178 is the advertising ARPU, by the way, it's not the GMV ARPU, which means that's 5%, which means it's a net revenue. It's like 5%. So it's 20 times of that is what per user that Google is making. You should basically have the GDP per capita measure of it and adjust it by that much. That is what one should be able to make in India in the next 5-6 years. And that's where I think the future of the country lies, because how many people can drive transactions? Like how much for things that one should pay for, they should certainly pay for, by the way. Like you should not get free clothes or something, but you should have content and you should have access to information, knowledge, everything which could be subsidized significantly. I think the cell phones, the data connectivity, all of that should be down to close to zero cost for every 1.2 billion people out there, because that's what Digital India should be. Digital India is not about just saying, okay, can more people get a little bit more stuff?
So, okay, mobile costs are certainly falling. I'm not sure whether it's going to go down to zero, but I guess it's a possibility. Sachin, your view? So far, if you're looking at the Indian internet, big values, everything is coming on transaction side. Do you see that changing?
No, actually I don't. I think transactions is going to be the dominant monetization method for the internet companies. Of course, companies which are driving. So this is the way I feel it will evolve, and I think consumers finding direct value in transactions will continue to be the dominant model, and then the companies which are driving those transactions are the ones which will be the biggest advertisers in this space as well. Of course, there will be other advertisers, but mostly companies which are either insurance companies or auto companies or e-commerce companies, or payments companies or transportation. All these apps which want to drive more and more transactions will continue to fund the internet through advertising as well. So there will be a good, healthy mix of both that will continue.
So let me now put to you the billion-dollar question, I guess, which is, if you look at the way the business model is, look at the valuations that there are. Right now, there are valuations in the billions, and a certain amount of revenue and GMV and growth is being valued without necessarily profitability kicking in. Now, people will say, look at Amazon, it still doesn't make money. At what point do you see that changing? At what point are people like you going to face pressure to say, look, you've got to start delivering some EBITDA at some point?
See, I think there are. We are a 7-year-old company now. I think we have seen ups and downs in constantly, right? So that where money was easily available to money was not easily available, and then there has been a constantly up and down cycle. But that will continue, I think. But we should look at the macro picture, right? If you look at a really long-term view, 10-year view of Internet of India, the sheer number of internet users that will happen, of course, I mean, we will have to get to that. Telecom spectrum has to be solved, and all the smartphones have to become cheaper and accessible to users and all of those things. But we believe in 5 years, about $500 billion of market cap will get created in the internet space in India. And in 10 years, that number could be as much as $1 trillion, right, of market cap created by internet in India, right? So there will be companies which will have that market cap, and then some of which will become that value. So when you look at that picture, I believe that valuations are completely justified. If you look at the total value of internet space of India is still less than $100 billion, right? So it's not.
So we justify the present valuations because it could be $1 trillion.
No, I think okay. This is the age of building internet conglomerates. Let's just remember it. And they will be far more impactful than traditional conglomerates in this country. Somebody who is in traditional business should know how the technology will disrupt their businesses. And the lovely part is one technology company can disrupt multiple business line items. Talk about any global company, they have done multiple business line items. So I don't think when we look at ourselves as Paytm, we are into payment business or a commerce business or a marketing business. I see us as a mobile internet company which is looking to dominate and build a conglomerate out of this country. $100 billion companies, I do think they are possible out of this country, and they will happen.
So would you agree with what Sachin was saying, $1 trillion total market cap, and therefore the valuations that we are seeing today in the business model is not flawed?
Technically, we all are the pitchers, and somebody else, I mean, man proposes, God, somebody else gives that. So that is a question to them. But I can tell you this, I do think there are certain companies very undervalued, and I don't mind saying that if Flipkart would be one of those, or many on this stage could be one of those, and absolutely that is the case. Why am I saying is that there is a risk appetite and an opportunity appetite. How long are you playing? That just changes the math. And if you're playing for a flipping in few years, you do get valued less, even if you have a great cash flow going on. And when you're playing for long, I think Amazon is not valued for its profitability because Amazon does generate profit in its verticals that it has profit in. It just recoups it into something else.
I mean, you must have heard the skeptics saying, well, how long is this going to continue? At some point, you know, this cash burn has to go down. These valuations cannot be sustained. Although, to be fair, we've been hearing that for years. It continues to grow, so who knows?
Look, I think so. I think we are confusing two different points, and I think these guys touched on that. One is the skepticism, the opportunity of India being a massive internet market is absolutely there, right? So the fact that every possible problem in the country should be solved through technology and internet to be a very strong enabler, mobile to be a very strong enabler, and that it's absolutely given. So therefore, every one of the people out there will essentially be solving a problem, potentially become a billion-dollar company. Therefore, cumulatively, that creates a $1 trillion economy 10 years down the line. Completely agree on that shit. I think the second part of the point is to say, hey, are the companies that are getting started in the last 5 to 10 years, are they prudent enough in how they are building their businesses such that those businesses, are sustainable, and those businesses take the path where, they leave a legacy for the next set of 10,000 companies to come in, such that they don't have the overhang of some of the mistakes that these early companies would make. And I think that's become a big question out there to say, look, a lot of us, do we make mistakes, and can we end up making mistakes that others will then question? And I think the prudency of, so I don't really bother so much about the fact that, look, is the valuations too high or too low, because, as long as they're justified over a long period of time to say, look, there will be free cash flows. And at the end of the day, every business has to generate free cash flow. And can you generate a free cash flow over a long period of time that can justify what you're doing today, then that's great. If you cannot, then that's exuberance, and that could be the case in certain scenarios where free cash flows are
Even if
hard.
it is, I think technology businesses are front-loaded costs, and they are free cash flow later. I agree that there has to be a conscious approach to it, and I do believe fundamentally into that also. But at the same point in time, let's just remember, this is time for investment. This is probably 2002, 2003 of China. And when you go to see 100 billion company, 10 years later.
But Sachin, of course, the other question is that is there going to be one big winner, or are there going to be 2 or 3 big winners? And follow-up to that is if there is one big winner, who is that? Flipkart, Vijay, Paytm, Snapdeal?
No, I will be very disappointed if there is one big winner in this space. I think there has to be a healthy ecosystem. There has to be companies pushing each other. Otherwise, it's not even possible to do that, right? So, because whether we like it or not, I mean, there is no, like any other sectors, there is no government regulatory protection that the company gets. I mean, the only way the companies can succeed by building world-class products, right? And then world-class products requires us to be competitive not just within ourselves, but actually with global competition, which is going to come to India as well. So I think we will need multiple companies to do well, to be to push each other, to try different things, as Naveen said, right? So I think people will try something, and Paytm will try something else, and InMobi will try something third in either building organizations or in products or technology or something, and we all learn from each other. And hence the ecosystem has to be healthy. If there is only one winner, it will definitely not be a very healthy ecosystem. I'm pretty sure about it.
Vijay, do you agree with that, or is there a sense of competition that drives you every day? Do you have pictures of Sachin up there on your wall saying, what is he doing today?
The dartboard,
him there, Kunal somewhere. Amazon.
I definitely don't have Sachin's picture, if I will have a dartboard there. I have a lot of respect for Sachin, and I've said it openly. Now, I think all of us in this industry are trying to build through one unique differentiator and expanding on that, whether it is brand, whether it is capability in logistics, whether it is capability in payment, whether it is assortment, whether it is one or other thing. And when you see the forward picture, I do see a lot of them are not playing long, so a lot of them will fall for the nature of the business that they are playing with. But it is definitely not a winner-take-all market, that is for sure. I mean, and when I say winner-take-all, I'm talking about 80-90% of market share. While if you see telecom, it was regulated, it was controlled, it was 20-30%. But I think there will be companies which will be sort of in a pecking order for sure. But over the period, the game becomes bigger. The game becomes bigger because then, if you are a winner, you have a winner's curse. Nokia won the phone business to lose the bigger business of smartphone, and then BlackBerry won the business of smartphones for a few years to lose a bigger business of software, and then so on and so forth. So I think my answer is that even if somebody is winning today, I will give the winning handle to say, let's fight for day after tomorrow, and we are winning.
Final question before I maybe take one or two questions from the audience also is, are there startups out there today which could become big giants of tomorrow and which you're already starting to see?
Oh yeah, I think both of those are absolutely true. I think the bigger threat always is coming from startups. It's not sorry?
It's not from the
Yeah. All the unknown people out there, because it's like a unknown, right? You just don't even know who to look at. Otherwise, you can continuously look at the known players. So the unknown ones, if it took us 5-7 years to get to where we are, I think the next generation of companies, A, they are much smarter. B, it'll take them half the time to get to, similar levels. That's clearly known in every scenario, by the way, the financing scenario, because, there is more money available, more users are available. They know all the mistakes that some people in the past have made. So it's clearly a given case. So that's one. The second big one is, you're absolutely right. I think, again, I go back to this, there is US, China, India. As India, we have seen the two stories play out, and there is no way in hell that people would just, not play in this last market. This is your last big market, frankly. in the world. If you don't have play in this last big market, you're going to lose. So everyone, like commerce is a great example of this. In every part of the world, or most of the parts of the world, there is one big winner. It's not going to be the case in India because everyone with their biggest pocket globally has come in and said, all right, here's my $3 billion to $5 billion because look, what the hell, I can't lose this market. So therefore, it's going to be a multiple player market. So similarly, you'll have a lot of the local large companies who also have seen the US-China story and said, okay, fine, brilliant, I'm going to now come in and play the game different, with their own strengths.
Just wanted to, on that point, on this ecosystem that is coming up, I hear a lot of people saying one of the reasons they're really bullish about the future of India is that the startup ecosystem that we are now starting to see, and especially in places like Bangalore and others, it's not quite Silicon Valley, but there's a really good ecosystem that is starting to come up. I believe there's one street right here in Bangalore, which, for example, has as much work taking place in big data analytics as is taking place in the whole of the valley. Do you agree with that this ecosystem is now becoming really good?
Yeah, I think the ecosystem has become, of course, like much better, and over the last few years that I've seen, definitely it's grown in multiple respects. I think the amount of investors that are available in the ecosystem, talent that is coming to the ecosystem, we've been able to reverse our brain drain that was happening from India, and actually we have been able to retain a lot of talent back into India now because of that, which itself is a huge step forward. I think absolutely there is all signs are looking very positive, but that said, still far from where China is or US is. We need to, of course, get there. The only way to get there is to keep working on it and keep improving it, and I think that will continue. Just is a sheer opportunity will actually take us there.
All right, great. I think we are out of time. I'm going to take maybe just a couple of questions. The gentleman there, second row.
Will augmented reality advertising model be the future?
So I think there is a huge, it's a form factor of sorts where you are able to essentially create very high level of contextuality based on what you're able to see. I think it'll be a massive play. Whether augmented reality in general will be that large is a interesting question, and the debate's already out in it. But advertising will play a very interesting role within that, because anything and everything that you could see could be a commercial content out there, and the right way to fit it in the right environment could actually play a big role. So in general, we've invested some amount on that already to try and figure out how augmented reality based advertisements can actually take off. But I think it's still a few years down the line, but we are personally a big believer in it.
Thank you all so much. Whichever way we look at it, I think it goes without doubt that the internet is going to be and already is one of the most powerful factors and powerful things that we have seen in our lifetimes, and mobile within that is almost certainly going to continue to drive a lot of change. Thank you all so much for having me.